All around Issaquah, what the rain left behind is a sight to see.
This is just terrible.
But it's really something else. On the street Pam Rawcastle calls home.
Dogwood, Northeast Dogwood, yeah.
It's a street where neighbors know each other.
Dana, who lives just one house over there,
For probably 35 years.
we actually went to high school together.
Long time.
And see, hey Izzy, yep, that's Izzy. In shorts.
I used up all my boots and pants last night. I was like, I don't know. What else are you gonna do?
That's just how it is. I mean, it's like family.
So when the creek started rising,
It's a lot of water.
they headed outside.
I'm telling you, my neighbor Spencer,
Yeah, hopefully it lets up a little bit.
some of the other neighbors, we rally around.
We tried to get these sandbags to at least divert it back into the creek a little bit.
And as they filled sandbags, the rain kept pouring.
I've been here for 10 years, never seen anything like it. Usually the creek can take it.
The creek couldn't take it.
Unfortunately, I feel like we got hit the hardest right over here.
And when it spilled over, their minds went to each other.
Dana on the other side,
It's been a little time in the neighborhood. You can see.
she's actually lower down, so she's on the crest of the creek.
If it had crested later, we would have been in trouble.
It was really a close call.
Yeah.
But luckily,
Did. Got very, very lucky.
it stopped short.
But a lot of that also really is my neighbors.
As for all this,
Could be worse. Could be better, but it's okay.
they'll handle it together.
Wonderful neighbors. Yeah.
And as for what's next,
It's starting to wrap around a little bit. Luckily, it's dying down.
I think the worst is over, for sure.
6 days after a landslide caused the first floor of this home in Seattle's Magnolia neighborhood to collapse, firefighters scramble to find signs of life as family and friends wish for a miracle.
We got a little cry this morning.
They believe that cry was from missing dog Sammy, still alive. They called firefighters in hopes of a rescue.
Because of the landslide that happened last week, it is not safe to enter the home. And so right now we're exercising extreme caution for our own crews.
Where was Sammy?
She was in the living room by the couches.
They cut through walls and tossed out debris, and hours in,
Got her? You get her?
they discovered the 3-year-old lab safe.
Yeah, be nice and calm, so she stays calm, okay? Here with a rock. Mommy's here. Just say mommy's here. Through your nose, out through your mouth.
Remy's got it. Remy's got it.
This was a moment they didn't expect to be possible. But somehow, Sammy found a way to survive being buried and trapped for 6 days. And finally, in that moment of reunion, a hopeful embrace after all this loss.
I did not expect this to go so well.
There are no words big enough to describe the depth of grief in this courtroom.
You guys want to protect him? He's already locked up. You! My brother! You saved me! You used to call me mom!
The family of Devon Pickett Jr.
Look at me!
overtaken at the sight of the man accused of killing a beloved community leader. They're everything. What words are enough to describe the loss of a brother?
Where am I gonna find this same? I'm not. Nothing's gonna be the same.
Are there words to describe the loss of a son?
I haven't talked to my son in 3 days. I haven't talked to him in 3 days. He has 3 beautiful babies. My babies, my grannies, my grandbabies. I just don't know what to do. Maybe I just want prayers, strength, support, strength.
The anger in this room comes as they seek justice.
This is how we all came together.
For the loss of a family man.
He took him from us. I'll never get to see my baby again. One more time, and that's all I got.
Court documents say LaFalle previously harassed Pickett's family by phone. A former childhood friend who later showed up at Pickett's business, the postman. Police say LaFall shot Pickett as he and his wife were trying to walk inside. His family has pledged to continue that business in Pickett's honor.
Devon Pickett Jr. will live on.
The Tacoma Fire Department oversees an area of about 240,000 people. On a given day, at least 79 firefighters are staffed to respond. Among them is Cody Shea.
It's Grid City. This is it's a working class town. It's a blue collar town. At least that was my experience growing up in it.
Like his fellow firefighters, Shea has seen his share of loss on the job.
I'm clinically diagnosed with PTSD, yes. It's something I deal with every day.
His boss, Fire Chief Tory Green, fully understands.
We have a front row seat to trauma every day. So when people show up to work today, they don't respond to good events. They respond to everyone else's bad events.
On the day we sat down with Shea and Chief Green about firefighters and mental health awareness,
That's a fire.
there's a bad event.
Go get them.
And we get a front row seat to their work in action.
I'm gonna look really quick. This might be a huge fire.
The fire at a rendering plant in Tacoma. The smoke.
Oh yeah, whoa.
Billowing.
Come out here.
Shea is off duty that day, but thinking of his colleagues who are responding.
Okay, we're gonna have Agent 1 gonna give us this.
The fire is quickly out, and a small example of what firefighters go through every day. Other times, Chief Green says firefighters see more than just damage to buildings.
Whether that's property loss or life loss.
Green says 37% of firefighters across the nation are clinically qualified as having PTSD. And more sobering,
The number one reason, a cause of death for firefighters is suicide.
the chief then learned his own staff was seeking mental health support from their peer group more than ever and thought of an idea to make a video to raise awareness.
The whole point of this video is to really break down the stigma that prevents people from reaching out for help.
And he approached Shea for the job. Shea, who happened to know a thing or two about
cameras.
making videos.
If I don't have anything going on, I'll just go there and just shoot because they'll let me in.
But the project was also personal.
It immediately sparked my interest because I have a lot of experience with that, with myself and from my family members, just being, basically a child of the fire service.
Shea's parents are retired firefighters of the Seattle Fire Department. His mother featured in a 1992 King 5 special, Women of Fire.
We couldn't make entry, but we found the victim right by the door.
Shea's father, also a veteran with Seattle Fire.
My dad was a driver on Engine 6 on 5th of January, 1995.
It was the night 4 Seattle firefighters died in the Pang warehouse fire, a disaster that took a toll on Shea's father, who couldn't help respond due to being on an aid call at the time.
The culture in which existed when both my parents were in their prime during the early 90s, being firefighters in Seattle, was that stigma was in full bore. If you struggled with things, you didn't really talk about it. You just kind of sucked it up, put on the smile, put on your uniform, and you go back the next day.
Shea's project turned from a 5-minute video into an hour-long documentary.
Fatalities or high dollar loss.
He marveled at the honesty from his colleagues. What is it that you would really want the public to know?
That there's a stigma within our profession of remaining strong and not being weak.
And that even heroes can ask for help.
We didn't want to leave people in the darkness.
In Tacoma, Christine Pei.
We wanted to show them the light at the end of the tunnel, and I think we did that.
News.
In the Echo Hawk home.
I personally believe in like a cultural and spiritual call to doing this kind of art.
Each stitch.
I did these handprints in the color of the native medicine wheel.
Each shade.
Red is the color of prayer.
Comes with a story.
It's also a symbol of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls movement.
And sometimes a reminder about the plan.
These kids, along with my own, they know that if their aunties or their mom ever went missing, that we would never have left them on purpose.
It's a plan Abigail Echohawk of the Seattle Indian Health Board says every Native woman she knows has had to make, what her family should do if she were to disappear.
They would need to make sure that somebody looked for us. For my children, they know that my handprints are on the dresses. They know that they would be able to take my fingerprints to the police. Do you ever remember not knowing about this?
No. We can be in danger people get lost by not telling people where they are and not being careful. They don't come home and you don't get to be with your family anymore.
Here in Washington, Indigenous people are going missing or being murdered at the second highest rate in the country. Seattle itself ranks as the city with the highest number of cases nationwide. According to the Seattle Indian Health Board, compared to white women, Indigenous women in Washington are 4 times more likely to go missing. Right now, State Patrol records show 126 Indigenous people in the state who aren't accounted for.
Research has shown us that the primary perpetrator of the acts of violence against Indigenous women and girls are white men, predominantly white men who come onto reservations or target Indigenous women within urban settings.
With fewer resources, Native American families are forced to take matters into their own hands and form plans for their loved ones.
I have actually posted something on Facebook. If I ever go missing, know that I didn't do it on purpose. Come look for me. I love my family and friends. I wouldn't just disappear.
Nana Bluen has spent the past 2 years looking for her own sister, 39-year-old Mary Johnson. Mary was last seen on the Tulalip Reservation on Thanksgiving 2020.
We don't want her flame to go out, so we're trying everything we can to keep her name and face out there.
Mary's sisters, Nona and Jerry, believe she may have been a victim of human trafficking.
Yeah, what do you tell your kids about where she is?
I just say, Aunt Mary's trying to find her way home. And our eldest daughter, she goes like this all the time. You know, and she's like, Mom, can we email the chief and ask where she is? Mom, why aren't they looking for her? You know, how come she's not home yet? She can't be that lost. And I don't want to tell them that she's missing. So that's what I tell them.
Fire Trail Road. This is the road what Mary was seen walking on the day she went missing. We believe that she trusted somebody, got in a vehicle, and has never been seen since.
Tulalip Police Chief Chris Sutter sees Mary's case as a continuation of what's been happening to Indigenous people in America for centuries.
Historically, the wrongs that have been committed, including abductions and murders and rapes and all forms of sexual assaults and other types of abuses, have gone unpunished and unprosecuted. This has been perpetuated for centuries.
And it's because of that history, Chief Sutter has talked to his own children about the plan.
My children have all heard Dad preach to them, be aware of their surroundings and their situation, and don't trust people.
I wanted to do this in honor of the families.
Back in the Echo Hawk home.
Do you guys know that? We would never leave you.
Mm-hmm.
Abigail hopes future generations won't need to prepare for their own abductions or murder by having a plan.
Having a plan is part of the hopelessness that's experienced by our communities. It's not something any of us should have to do.
Until then, Abigail creates hope from unlikely sources, like these flowers on her latest art piece.
And really thinking about every single person as a blossom, as beloved life.
When the Seattle Indian Health Board asked for PPE during the pandemic, the federal government sent them these body bags instead.
How many body bags do you have?
Got like 22 left.
22 body bags?
Now Abigail uses them to create art that highlights the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women. One of her works made from these body bags has even been featured in Vogue.
My artwork is a form of healing.
She's also now using them to keep the traditions of her culture alive for the next generation.
It's cool because most people are not able to be a part of the culture.
The thing I love about it is that for these kids, this is just who they are. It's going to be pretty.
Creating hope and beauty from darkness.
There's hope on healing the past so that we have full healing for our community so their children's children don't experience the same things that I did, that they did, where something like this is never out of a body bag again. I refuse to let the hopelessness be all the conversation.
Head 4 hours east of Seattle, across the ancestral lands of the Cayuse, Umatilla, and Walla Walla people. You'll eventually cross a prison boundary where you'll find tribal members who spend days thinking about what they've lost, daydreaming about freedom. For the first time in nearly 3 years, inmates here are hosting a traditional native powwow with family and friends as guests. Part religious ceremony, part celebration.
Really?
Talon Saluskin is a member of the Yakima tribe and an inmate of the Washington State Penitentiary.
I came in pretty angry.
That's his mom at his side.
I've come a long way.
It's a blessing to know that we're sharing this time.
For Saluskin and dozens of other Native inmates, this is an extraordinary day in prison.
We take advantage of this and we put our culture all the way up, preserve our culture, and we learn our ways, and we give back to the community for everything we've taken, you know.
In many cases, what they've taken, they can't replace.
Remember when I call? I say, hi, grandson.
Something new grandfather Anthony Lewis thinks about every single day. Here's Anthony Lewis in 2016, shortly after he was convicted of murder.
My dad's never gonna get to see us grow up.
The victim's daughter spoke about her pain.
It's not fair.
Words that clearly weighed heavy on Lewis.
With all my heart, on my knees, I beg you guys to forgive me for what I became.
That was 6 years ago. Today, he finds healing and repentance in long-founded tribal traditions.
Well, when we make these things like this is our sacred medicine here. This is what we believe in.
Healing found through beadwork and prayer.
Everything that we've done is one bead at a time. You know what I mean? Just like one step at a time. That's what we do. You dance out there with the dancers. Look, the dancers too.
Lewis has sobered and softened.
Oh, you look cool, guy.
You can see it with family.
Love you, grandson.
I love you.
His grandchild, who was allowed to take part today. Like the powwows, most visits were canceled by the pandemic. The powwow came back to the state penitentiary with the help of Jeremy Garrettson, a convicted felon turned mentor for recently released prisoners. He worked with the DOC to make today's celebration a reality.
Being able to have a moment to brush all of that off and have a moment with your family to just look your loved ones in the eye and be together, it's priceless, man.
His life's mission is to keep these men from ever going back.
Native Americans may not have the highest population per capita in this facility, but they have the highest recidivism rate amongst their ethnic and culture group. Our people are routinely coming back and coming back and coming back, and it's a perpetual wheel that has to stop.
State records show Native inmates have the highest recidivism rate of any other demographic. For the general population, 32% will return to prison within 3 years. But for Native inmates, the rate is 45.3%, nearly half back behind bars in the same time frame. Garrettson knows better than anyone else how powerful indigenous cultural traditions can be. A decade ago, he found spirituality behind prison walls in a sweat lodge ceremony.
And from that point forward, I focused on culture. The void in me that I used to feel with the gangs and the drugs and the nonsense, I now filled with the culture, the ceremony, and the medicine.
And that's the intention of bringing the prison powwows back. Opportunities to connect with their ancestors, culture, and history.
Go, grandson, go.
And in the process, hopefully, find peace.
Letting the world see what we go through out here. Even though you see a lot of barbed wire fence, I hope for a moment that you guys out here, you feel our freedom that we've had out here.
In Walla Walla, Sebastian Robertson, News.
I feel like time in general is so weird in the last 2 to 3 years.
After COVID, it was kind of like everything stopped.
COVID was really putting everything under pressure.
Yeah, it's still weird, but I'd definitely say it's getting better than it was. Everything's kind of back to normal in a sense.
So what was good in 2022?
What was good?
Some sense of normalcy after COVID, going to school dances, getting more involved with normal school life.
Definitely say traveling. Yeah, that's getting
traveling.
better than it was.
You know what I really like? Going back to the movies again.
Seeing things in real life, because I got to see like live performances for the first time in a really long time.
A drive deep to right field, down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1.
Oh, hey, the Mariners made the playoffs. It's been a long time since we were in the next to last row of the Kingdom watching them in the playoffs.
They almost, oh my gosh.
What about personal highlights?
Like the big events.
I'll say a lot of personal growth. A lot of personal growth, a lot of self-improvement.
The biggest thing for me is starting a new business.
Getting married.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably the best part of the year.
Yeah, I think so.
I graduated.
Yeah, you graduated.
I graduated college.
But I got to go on tour with my choir
Oh yeah.
in Eastern Europe, and that was really cool.
I will be grandfather for the second time.
Congratulations.
I'm glad that after 40 years that I'll be able to walk without problems. It's
that you never admitted.
Well, you know.
I've gotten my break that I so desperately needed.
Yes.
Because 2020 and 2021 were not very kind
Right.
to any of us.
Yeah.
What was bad?
And what was bad? About 2022? What wasn't?
И этот шаг может стать началом большой войны.
The war between Ukraine and Russia here.
Good day, everyone. We're coming on the air with some sad breaking news. Queen Elizabeth II has died at the age of 96.
I think it could probably change the face of the monarchy.
In this historic decision, the Supreme Court has now overturned Roe v. Wade.
That's been, I think, the biggest negative in limiting women's access to health care that's really important.
Inflation, that's bad. For
That's bad.
2022.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Rising interest rates, making it harder to do business.
I think the most terrifying things to me in 2022 were around climate. Any element of climate weirding terrifies me more for my kids, again, than myself.
I don't know about you, what's been bad for you?
I would honestly just say trying to get back into things. Like the hardships of going back to school in person. That was hard.
I lost 2 companies.
Having to redo all of our plans for the wedding 2 days before it happened.
Yeah. God, I can't remember anything else. I guess not a lot has happened to us. That was bad.
Not a lot of bad things, which I guess is a good thing.
I'm hopeful that. What am I hopeful for?
Hopeful for inflation to come down.
I'm just excited to, travel and see the world and get out there before I have to anchor down and actually start my life.
To find a good college fit.
And who knows, maybe in the new year we'll see the Sonics come back.
Getting a corgi.
Yes, yes, definitely a corgi too.
I'm hopeful that as we reemerge from the pandemic, people kind of looking within a little bit more and questioning their values and maybe coming to a new understanding of what they want out of their relationships, their life, the balance between work and friendship and all these things, that we will have a kinder, gentler world going forward. I'm hopeful.
2023 is going to be fun.
Let's hope fun. Let's hope.
And I enjoyed another great year with you.
Aww.
Well, probably shouldn't kiss on camera.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
(2022's Northwestern Pinball Arcade Show is on.
Oh, wow.
The convention showcases more than 400 pinball and arcade machines. Attendees will see the latest tech in pinballing and play custom models and machines dating back to the 50s.
If there's a title that you're looking to play, you're probably going to find it here.
This weekend will also give the Northwest pinball culture a chance to shine.
The pinball culture in the Northwest has been around for a very long time. You take a a pin bar, if you will, like Shorty's in downtown Seattle that's been around for over 25 years. I remember growing up and going to the arcades in the malls, strip malls, big malls, and now that's kind of resurged.
Now, according to the attendees, one of the appeals of pinball is that it exists in the real world. So it brings a different gaming experience than if you were playing on a computer or a console. There we go.
It's a physical machine. Like, there's virtual pinball machines, but it's just not quite the same. Moving the machine physically, and then there's all these quirks with the machine too.
Sits up there too long.
And veteran players hope that they can pass that excitement on to the next generation of pinball players and keep moving the community forward. And they have some tips if you're just starting out.
If you don't know the rules of the game, just aim for the flashing lights and you'll have a great time.
Good morning. We're here today to do a flight down to Chehalis for Bob Cable, who's a D-Day veteran.
It's a celebration worthy of military precision. A party in the works for a century.
Hi, Bob. Can I get you anything to drink?
Bob Cable is 100 years old today.
What's your secret? How did you get to this point?
You know, I really don't know. I tell everybody pretty girls. Georgie, are you here for lunch?
Why, are you inviting me?
Yes.
The highlight of this party, a flyover from the Cascade Warbirds, veterans in former military planes heading up to honor one of their own.
What are you most proud of?
Saving the world.
Bob, an Army engineer, landed on the beaches of Normandy weeks after the initial invasion of Europe. He helped the Allies win the war.
How do you say happy birthday in German?
Guten Geburtstag.
He has friends here and family and community.
It's hard to say, but I understand.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Peep, 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 peep.
Spectacular. He loves it. He loves the attention.
I hear them. I don't see them.
Here they come, Bob.
I had no idea the planes would be so close. That was excellent.
The perfect birthday gift, veterans to veteran.
There's a whole lot of us. Not many left, but there were a lot of us. And they all deserve something. This is the best.
Drew Mickelson.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been 1,084 days since I lost my daughter.
I don't know if I can do this.
Because you can solve the case by being out there.
Yeah. It's whatever makes you comfortable.
Yeah.
I just don't even know where to start.
My name is Charity Rush, and I am Autumn Stone's mother.
I am James, and I am Autumn's father.
James, tell us about Autumn. What about her brightened up your life?
Everything. She's just very caring and loving and giving, and she just had the purest heart. She was 23, just barely 23. It started off a really, really good day. Going to Green Lake that day, she had came to me the day before and she said, you know, I'm gonna go do this. She was super excited. You know, she was gonna have a mommy day. She was gonna go and get her a pedicure. As far as I know, she was going alone.
And I go back to the phone call.
I got a phone call at 9:45.
The phone call that I got at 10 o'clock, August 30th.
From the Seattle Medical Examiner's Office.
I don't know how to put into words what it's like to lose your daughter.
They found my daughter with, you know, shoelaces around her neck, and her sweater was zipped up over the shoelaces. They have no proof. They have nothing saying that there was any foul play there. There's just no way. There's no way.
I don't believe even the slightest bit that she took her own life.
She was engaged to be married. I could show you pictures. She was just so happy.
But you can just see her, you know, she was just super happy and just full of life.
In January of 2020, when we initially learned that the case had been closed as a suicide, we reached out to Brent because we were not getting anywhere with the police.
But yeah, so this is the year right now. So she walked here. A lot of time for somebody to see her if she was with somebody. Her shoes were found here.
Mm-hmm. Were the shoes found over here missing shoelaces?
Yeah, they were the same shoelaces that came with the shoes. We went to the manufacturer. Her vest had been zipped up and she had been put in the water. How did she zip up her vest if she had been unconscious? It just doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense.
How many times do you come out here?
Oh. Too many. I just look for answers. I don't have any.
There's enough evidence that he's found that it gave us the ability to go back to the police and say, look, we need to open this case again. And that's what they did.
Autumn Stone's parents tell me they believe she was murdered. When I reached out to Seattle PD for insight on this case, I was told it's an open case and they couldn't release any information as it pertains to their investigation. My most recent inquiry to Seattle PD went unanswered.
This is our file that we've been keeping. It has anything and everything related to my daughter's death. I don't believe that it was a random act. I think it was an act of passion and it was to silence her. And unfortunately, she's a statistic at this point, and I'd like to change that.
What do you think will break this case open?
DNA. I do.
I struggle with it every day.
Yeah, it's hard. The pain doesn't go away, you know. We just want answers.
But even then, it's going to be something I deal with every day for the rest of my life.
Welcome. We're the Lactamish people.
On the shore of the Salish Sea.
These are the native waters of Quethalmachan, orcas.
Members of the Lummi Nation and others pray for the return of someone they consider family. A southern resident orca that was captured from these waters more than 50 years ago.
This is her home, not in Miami in a cement tank. That's not where she belongs. We ache for our relative. So it was important today to gather to send prayers to Skelly Chuktanut to let her know we're coming for her.
The Lactamish people call her Skelly Chuktanut. But here in Miami, where she's been held in captivity for the last 50 years, she's Lolita. She's legal property of the Miami Seaquarium.
When you are close to her, you can feel the sadness that she's just hanging on. It is just taking a lot longer than we'd ever hoped.
Skelly Chuktanut's story begins in 1970, around the time King 5 began investigating orca captures in Puget Sound.
Had aircraft flying over the San Juans to spot them, boats with explosives to separate the adults from the babies.
It was during one of these captures, Scully Chucktanut was violently taken from her family in Washington's Penn Cove. She was just 4 years old.
They only wanted the babies. She is the longest living orca in captivity. When she was brought to a pen on the dock by the harbor, she was crying. Her mother was crying. People around Penn Cove, the older people can still hear the cries, the screams.
The whole capture itself, how traumatizing would that have been?
Terribly traumatic. Pain on the side of their heads when those bombs are going off.
Howard Garrett, co-founder of the Orca Network, showed us photos from some of those whale captures in the early 70s.
The older females would gather around the young ones and try to protect them. They knew what was happening.
Since her capture, Scully Chucktanut has lived mostly alone here at the Miami Seaquarium.
It's shallow. There's nowhere in her tank that's deep enough that she can dive.
Ellie Kinley and Raynell Morris are Lummi tribe members who have visited Scully Chucktanut in Miami.
You know you're not alone.
You'll see that there's 2 umbrellas for the trainers that are working with her, but yet there's no shade for her.
According to a 2021 inspection report, she's fed poor quality rotten food. The water in her tank is dirty, and her trainers disregarded veterinary instructions to make her perform despite injuries.
This is an extreme case of torture and abuse. She's been treated very, very badly by a lot of the staff.
In March, the Dolphin Company purchased the Miami Seaquarium. As a condition of the sale, the company had to retire Scully Chucktanut. For now, she remains in Miami. The company did not return our request for comment.
She is now gone from the corporate books from an asset to a liability. So that's a huge incentive for them to come to the table and want to partner with us.
Scully Chucktanut's advocates are working to get an independent veterinarian to assess her condition and determine whether she could safely make the 3,000-mile journey back home.
It's been done since the 1960s. Hundreds of times, orcas have been transported by plane.
First, Scully Chucktanut would be coaxed into a custom-made stretcher and lifted out of her Miami aquarium with a crane. The 20-foot, 7,000-pound orca would then be lowered into a small container not much bigger than herself, filled with ice water to prevent overheating. From there, she'll be loaded onto a cargo plane for a 6-hour trip to the Bellingham airport. Next, onto a barge, which will transport her to her ancestral waters in the Salish Sea. Her new home will look very different than the cement aquarium she's spent the last half-century in. The plan, created in collaboration with wildlife researchers and marine mammal veterinarians, calls for a netted underwater pen, 250 feet long, 100 feet wide, and 30 feet deep in fresh ocean water.
The scent of the cedar brings the salmon home. And that scent travels across the water to her. She's home. It's calling her home, like it calls the salmon home.
Here at home and in Miami, a special call from her family.
And when we went to Miami in 2020, we brought our cedar with us to put it in to the water outside of her tank. So Scully Chucktanut would smell that cedar. Scully Chucktanut! And know that's home. Scully Chucktanut! She's 56. She has 37 plus beautiful years left of her life. When she comes home, she'll feel comforted. Her struggle's over. I can see it.
On the horizon, advocates hope for a reunion. A half-century in the making.